Well, according to this, I'm live. Well, that's good to know. Although somebody did say that they didn't manage to stay live until the end yesterday, which presumably means that they died. Anyway, here we go. Christ is risen, Anthony. The two other people are watching at the moment. That's very good. It's a stunning day today here in this part of England. I can see for miles. Everything's lovely and clear. There are lovely big puffs of cloud up in the sky. Looks absolutely beautiful. Good morning, Declan. Christ is risen. And it's warmish, only ish. It was very cold in the night. In fact, good morning, Maria, Helena. We had quite a thick frost. I just went and had a look at the potatoes down in the other veg garden down there, and the tops of them have been burnt by the frost, but they'll recover. They'll recover very quickly. A little bit of frostbite won't hurt those at all. Lily, good morning. Christ is risen. I was wondering, Lily, whether Ramonas is being able to watch the videos that Malengeth is putting up. If not, I think that'd be a very good thing if he's able to do that. Good morning, Phoebe, Patrick, Dominic. Christ is risen. Your prayers. Good morning, Andrew. Christ is risen. He's risen indeed. And we're off to a lovely, beautiful day today. Later on, I've got to go shopping, which is not a job I enjoy at the very best of times, and definitely don't enjoy doing at the moment. But there we go. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Vicky. He's risen indeed. Michelle, risen indeed. Michelle, you're awake. You've not been drinking your chamomile tea. Amelia, good morning, Amelia. Christ is risen. Thank you, Lily. I'll put the link for it underneath here later on when I've found it. But I think I gave the link a week ago. And somebody else I thought ought to be doing it as well. I also, Malengeth, have been watering the garden. I was impressed to see your fruit fly solution. I'm sure he is working very hard, Lily. Your fruit fly solution for the froglets. Having hatched them out too early, and they should be in a pond, but they're in a tank. There are not enough flies the right size for them to eat. So what Malengeth has done is that she's imported some wingless fruit flies that can only crawl, therefore are easy pickings for the froglets. Poor old fruit flies. They had to be packaged up, to be sent by post, and when they arrived, they got out in the sunshine. Glory to God, they're eaten by frogs. What a life. Oh, thank God, Mary. Well, Christ is risen, and so are you by the looks of things. I'm glad you slept well. Okay, today, without much further ado anyway, except to say that the goslings have really increased in number. Not in number, in size. They're far bigger. And we've got quite a large number of geese that have taken up residence now in the marsh. They're not going to be laying eggs or doing anything down there. It's too late for them. But if you think that the goslings were about the size, well, they were exactly the size of an egg only 3 weeks ago. They're now each one of them about this big. You can't really see how big that is, but bigger than my head anyway. So they've grown like mad. Everything else seems to be well. We did quite a lot of digging yesterday and some more digging and grass cutting and all that sort of stuff to be done today. Right, Mark chapter 1, verses 27 to 28. Remember yesterday, we had the whole business about the man who's been healed. He's in the synagogue, and the demon has been shouting at the Lord, and the Lord just says back, come out of him, and the demon comes out with a loud voice, tearing at the man or mangling him, as it says in Greek. Quite a frightening thought, a loud voice, scream. Then chapter 1, verses 27. Let's just read verses 27, 28 to you. Verse 27. This is in the New English Bible. Then they were all amazed. So they questioned among themselves, saying, what is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority he commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. And immediately, that nice mark word, his fame spread throughout all the region around Galilee. I wish it said exactly that, but in Greek, I think it says more than that. It's rather more beautiful, rather more amazing. They, of course, are the people inside the synagogue. So you're really talking about men. There have been at least 10 of them, probably rather a lot more. Maybe, well, they could have. There were about 500 men there in that city, in that town, but not all of those have turned up, and there may have been other places they could meet. But it says they're all amazed. And really, we want to strengthen that word. They were flabbergasted. That's a great word. They were all flabbergasted. Never had their gasted been so flabbered. And it says that they question among themselves. It really means they debated, they disputed amongst themselves, they argued with each other. They weren't dumbfounded, as it says in some places, but they actually start talking. They're talking to each other. So it's not a question of them not knowing what to say. They're all beginning to say things. In fact, whereas beforehand, there'd have been a nice, calm, good, straightforward service in the synagogue, people chanting the Psalms, listening to the prophets and the Pentateuch, and a sermon by this new rabbi, Jesus of Nazareth. Now, all that nice way of doing things stopped. They're now disputing and arguing with each other. They're flabbergasted. They've not heard stuff like this before. And they say, not quite what it says in this translation, actually. I think that you've got to remember that in ancient Greek, they didn't put in full stops, question marks, speech marks, or anything else. That came much later. Let's see who's here. We've got Deacon Pantaleimon. He's not very far away. I'll be going past your house in about half an hour to an hour, well, 3/4 an hour from now, Father Pantaleimon, going off shopping in Sainsbury's. Oh yes, Patrick, I'm going to do that. You're asking about a course in Orthodoxy. Yes, I'll put that later on. I'll put the link underneath. I think I did put a link, but it might not have been on the day that I said it. Good morning, Andrew. Christ is risen. Anyway, what were we saying? Yes, it says in English, what is this? And what new doctrine is this? For with authority he commands, blah, blah, blah. But actually, probably in Greek, it reads something differently. It says, what is this? A new doctrine with authority. So it's a different, you can see the slant is quite different there. A new doctrine with authority, rather than what new doctrine is this with authority he commands. So it's the doctrine they're concentrating on, and what has happened with the evil spirit, the unclean spirit, actually confirms the doctrine in their mind. The teaching now becomes confirmed. And the teaching will, of course, be about himself. Now, that's also very interesting. They're questioning amongst themselves. Beforehand, the week before, they wouldn't have needed to question amongst themselves, debate. They wouldn't have been flabbergasted. They wouldn't have disputed with each other because they knew what to think. It's quite easy. Everybody could teach them what to think. They knew what to think. It said so in the Bible, this is what to think. And the rabbis and others would tell them what to think. But now they don't know what to think anymore. This Saturday, they woke up knowing what to think. But by the time they go home for their Saturday roast, actually they'd have had sandwiches, for their Saturday lunchtime sandwiches, they don't know what to think anymore. They're flabbergasted. Their lives have been turned upside down with this person, this Jesus of Nazareth. See how we just read a couple of verses and don't even notice them. And that's really what I'm trying to get at with all of this Bible study. We've been going quite a long time now. If you look back, I don't know what number this one is, but we've been going quite a long time, and we're only on verse 27. And that's because when Mark and the others wrote their Gospels, they didn't pad them out with nonsense. They wanted us to concentrate on what they were really saying. And when these guys concentrated on what the Lord said, I don't even really know what he did say. They're flabbergasted. Now they have to think for themselves. They have to make up their own mind. They've got to make a choice. Are they going to go with the Lord, or are they going to go with Satan? That's the choice they have to have in the end. Are they going to stand with the demon and say, let us alone? Or are they going to go with the Lord and say, we want to know more about this. I want to be your disciple. I want to put you on, as it says in the baptism service and in Galatians, put on Christ. As many as have put on Christ have put on Christ. Alleluia. So they'd have been chewing the ends of their pencils a good deal that day, wondering what to think. And one of the problems, within religion generally, and not just in Orthodox Christianity, is that people often want to know what to think, want to be told, what am I to think? Rather than to be free to join Christ, to be part of him. I mean, the doctrine, the teachings are Christ. They're not even really about Christ, they are Christ. We unite ourselves to Christ, as it says in the baptism or in the chrismation. And having united ourselves to Christ, we are in him, he in us. So we don't really want to learn about him anymore. We want to learn him. That's really what disciple means. In Greek, mathetes, from which we get the word mathematics, by the way. Stuff I know that's of no point, no use to anybody. I don't know. Anyway, but you get to know Christ. You become like him. You become him. That's why we receive communion, to become his body, his blood. It strengthens us. It makes us him. Yes, you're quite right, Melengeth. Decision between bravery and cowardice. You have to swim with Christ. Otherwise, you just go with the stream. You disappear off somewhere or other down in the rapids. You must swim against the stream, make upwards, go against the water, against the tide, and that's where you remain safe. So having fresh thoughts is often not a really good indicator that somebody is a Christian. But actually having fresh thoughts is really important. Quite a number of clergy are appointed because they've never had a fresh thought in their head at all, ever, not once. And therefore they're completely safe, completely benign, utterly uninteresting. They won't rock the boat. They won't do anything that's going to upset anybody because they haven't got a fresh thought in their heads. However, the Lord really upset everybody in the synagogue. Do you know what? It's 13 minutes past 10, and I'm just wondering, shall we wait for the next verse for tomorrow? No, I think we'll deal with it now, but really quickly. The Lord commands, they say. He commands, even the unclean spirits. The word in command in Greek means arranges the life of. He arranges the lives even of the unclean spirits. Hey, Marta, I'm doing it now. Arrange. You can get off this if you're sick of it and want to have coffee, or go and join. Go and do shopping or whatever it is you want to do, or drink chamomile tea. He commands. He arranges the lives of, and they obey him. Now that word obey in Greek is really interesting. It comes from two words, hyper. You all know about hypermarkets and hypercritical and all that sort of thing. And hyper and akuo, which means to listen. So if you hyper listen, It means you act on and you obey. And that's really important. As you know, Saint Benedict began his instructions to monks with the words listen. And Saint Peter, his first name, Simon, means listen. And here we have listen again. Hyper listen. Hyper listen. Hyper listen to Christ. The demons do it. You can do it. You have to hyper listen to Christ yourself and obey him by hyper listening to him. And this hyper listening is something that all of us need to learn to do. Again, like yesterday, lots of people say to me, you know what, Father, my prayers are never answered by God. And I say to them, oh, that's very interesting. So have you been listening to God? Have you been listening? Have you spent any time listening out for him? Have your ears? Oh, you got two. Only got one mouth. And if you look at the icons in your icon corner, notice how big the eyes are, how big the ears are, how small the mouth is. So you listen and you watch for the Lord. Then he might be able to get a word in edgeways. Otherwise, we tend to rabbit on all the time. And instead of listening to our orders, our commands, for him to, you remember the word, arrange your life. What? You won't be able to do what he wants you to do. And you'll come and say to me, you know what, Father, the Lord never answers my prayers. I think he does. You just haven't been listening to him. Yes, you're quite right, Maria Helena. Yes. He's silent when he needs to be silent. You can only stand before Christ in one of two ways. And this is what happens in the gospel. Either like the chief priests or like Pilate, you are his judge, or you are his disciple. There's no other choice. Anyway, we'll just finish this off. His fame, it says here, in fact, it says the news about him. And again, like, listen, they obeyed him. The word is akue, which means the sound of him, the sound, the listening, the things they listened to him, spread out. They went out. The last time we heard went out, it's the demon going out of the man, the bad news going out of him. And now the good news spreads out through the region, through the neighborhood of Galilee. Okay, so I think that's much more than enough for one day. Please keep me in your prayers. God bless you, Sissy, and God bless everybody else. Keep each other in your prayers. You can see who you are just by looking at the side here. Tomorrow we shall have a look at the next verse or two. God bless you. Your prayers.